Okay, let's do that green dress assignment. I've got it printed out here, and then it's also for you guys in Canvas. I would look really closely at those images in the assignment while you're doing this. Now, I'm just trying to think. For some reason, one of the images had the neckline flipped. I don't know how that happened. I like reversed the image. I don't know why or how I did that, but in any case, we'll go ahead and get started here. What I'm going to do is talk you guys through how I drew the neckline. The rest of the dress people usually do fine with, but really it's this little halter with the twist that confuses people. So let's just talk through that. Let me get this down right above where I'm drawing. And I'm going to go ahead and, as usual, think about how this is going to fit on her neck. I'm referencing the photos as I do this. And this halter is going to be pretty high up here, and it's going to come down towards the center of her neck. And I'll make it 3D by putting the other side in. The part that goes over the bust, I'm going to connect from the armpit, and I'm going to aim up here. Okay, so I'm not worried about this middle section. I will resolve that in a minute. Let me come down along her side, and it is a little bit blousy, a little bit loose. So I'm going to bring it out and in, kind of similar to how we did the sleeve on the purple shirt, just to give it that little bit of drapey fullness right there at the waist. And then we're going to hug her waist as we go down. And once we get right past the hips, we can just gently flow either straight down, or if you want it to seem a tiny bit more form-fitting, you can just gently dip in and then pull away. And my croquis is cut off at her shins, so I'm going to go just a little longer down here. This dress is about ankle length, so something like that will work fine. Okay, in a second I'll talk about the hem. Okay, let me mark my center line, and fold my paper. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and trace the back of this, what I've got so far, and then I've got to come back and fix up that neck situation. Okay, so we'll come right down here, we'll come right down here, we'll go right there, and then down, and the rest of it is, I'll see if we have time to come back to that. Okay, now for the neck, let me put it back on her. And what I'm going to do is just first decide if I'm happy with what I've got so far. I think it's fine. I could have probably made this whole thing a little lower, but I think it's fine the way we have it. I'm going to come across the back neck. I should probably draw half of that and fold it and reflect it, but I think I can probably freehand it okay. Now, let me move this out of the way. From here to here is what connects across the back, okay? And then we're going to connect right there and right there. All right. Now, let's sort out this twist situation. So for the twist, if you look really closely at it, the left side is coming over from inside, okay? So I'm going to separate there and here. I can go there and I can go basically here. Okay, now I'm going to need to fix this up a tiny bit, but that gets me started. Now on the other side, I'm seeing the strap come out from the middle. Okay, so if you can get this far, you're really in the home stretch. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to polish it up and make it look a little bit nicer by making this part a little bit bigger. However you started yours might affect how you need to modify it just to make it look the way you want it to, but I think that's going to be perfectly fine for our purposes. Okay, now what I want to do is put in some nice drapey lines. You guys will see I did put a finished flat in the assignment, but again, don't draw a flat from a flat, guys. You want to try to draw a flat from a garment so that you can really test yourself and see if it makes sense what you're doing. Now, I put a center line in there because I know there is one. Similar to that bathing suit yesterday, there simply must be a center line in order to make this twist happen. So I went ahead and put a center seam line, and I'm going to put a few little drapey lines in here. The blousiness on the bottom, I bubbled up that sort of line, and then I'm just going to drag a few nice drapey lines up in there. Okay, these should look like they're kind of aiming for each other, especially over the bust, like they could be kind of aiming for the bust. Basically, drape lines are pointing you towards whatever's pulling on the fabric, and in this case, the bust is sort of pulling. Now, I'm going to erase that one. That's going to confuse people. I don't want to do that. I would like it on an illustration. I don't like it on a flat. If this is gathered up, which it looks like it might be, we could do just a little bit of that, but don't do too much because we don't want it to be confused for a seam line. And then inside, we have no idea, but I'm pretty confident there's a hook and eye of some sort. So if you guys wanted to annotate hook and eye, you could do that. And we're pretty good here. The skirt, the fall on the skirt, the center fall, I'm just going to go like that down both sides. And I am not going to draw those lines all the way down because they're not a seam line. It's just where the fabric is folded on itself. Okay, so I'll just go like that. And then we'll give it a couple of radiating gathers. Notice that my radiating lines are all kind of coming from here and splitting outwards like sun rays. Okay, you'll see on my other flat, I think I might have had a little fun with this and put a couple little bumpies on the silhouette edge. If you do that, that is where you need to aim back from. Okay, so you can do that, but just in moderation. We don't want too much of that on the flats. You're going to want a side seam on here. That side seam will go all the way down. Side seam up here too. And the side seam on here, this is important, it stops here, okay, right at her armpit. The side seam doesn't go all the way up. Okay, do the side seam on the other side, and then when you flip it and reflect it, this is where, you know what, before I do that, just real quick, let me talk about the hem. So I don't want to make it too flowy. What I like to do is just draw a light line where it's going to go, and that line is kind of a curve. I'm going to give two lines as if they're aiming back up towards that fall that's coming from her waist. And what I'll do is let that hang down just a little lower, and the other parts I can draw in. Now, I kind of freehanded that other side. It is probably better if I folded it and traced it, but it's okay on a hem that's a little bit flowy like this to do that by hand. We just have to be careful. If anything looks asymmetrical that isn't supposed to be, then the factory, if they go by that, you know, it's kind of your fault that you drew it that way. Okay, let's talk about the back. We're gonna, as usual, start with the silhouette. We always do the back view the same exact way, where we're gonna trace the silhouette or the outline of the front view, and then we'll adjust the details as needed to turn that front view into a back view. Because if you think about it, if you had this dress laying on a tabletop, perfectly arranged, and you were able to flip it over without messing it up, you would not change the outline shape. The silhouette would stay the same. All that changes is the parts that you see, even down to those little bumpy bumps if you put them in there, okay? Okay, so for the back view, here's what I'm seeing, okay? We've got a low back, so from here, where the side seam ended basically, from here to here, that's where your back needs to pick up. Okay, so you can drop that down if you want to. I'm kind of going quickly here because I don't know why, because I'm late to a meeting and I have a lot to do, but I probably should fold and reflect. But I just want to do this so you guys get the idea. You'll see a really finished one in the assignment. In fact, I have a finished one I'll put up on the screen in just a few more minutes. There is a center back seam. We can see that. In fact, I'm pretty, no, does it have a zipper, guys? I think it probably would have to. I'll put a little zipper pull right there. The back waist seam, there is a seam, okay, but it's not all blousey like the front. And we can see that there's darts. If you guys look closely, you'll see that there are some hip darts right there. Okay, fold yours and make it symmetrical, but there should be some hip darts. I really should be folding this. I apologize. I'm gonna regret it if I don't do it right. Okay, hold on, let me fold it. Let me fold it. Okay. It's kind of great, like, you know, if you don't fold it, it really does. So you can even see, like, because I'm rushing, I can see that little things are not aligning. So I'll try to be better. Okay, here we go. All right. Oh, and the dart was the other thing I wanted to make sure was matching. Okay, we drew the side seam on the front view, so I don't need that on the back view. It is hard to tell whether this dart goes up into the back. I don't think it probably would. You'll see a lot of wrinkling back here, but I'm confident that's not part of the design. That's just how it's fitting on the model, so we're not going to worry about that. The center back seam goes all the way down. You can kind of see it, and also I just know you need to do that to make this garment. Okay, now for the what do you call it? For the little twist, you can break your brain over this if you want to, but it actually looks the same back view and front view. And then we're going to put an understitch in here. If you guys have done some sewing, you know that an understitch is going to control the edge of a garment, and we're going to want to have that right there. This center seam that we saw on the front is also going to be on the inside. And then this part right here, we need to make this neck strap look like the back, so all we do is connect it there instead of how we did it on the front view. Okay, and then you can draw if you wanted to do a little bit of drapey lines in there. All right, now obviously this is unfinished. Let me pull the finished one up on the screen just like that, and you can see that I did do a decent amount of little drapey lines in here. There's my darts, there's my zipper pull, understitch. Oh, I didn't do the hem, but what I think is important to point out, okay, be careful guys. I think my front views are always to the left of my back view, but the twist is reversed on this example, so it's possible this was when I had the image flipped. I'll just do it this way so that you can see it. If we let that front skirt hang down, the back view must also have that hanging down. Okay, so don't get confused. We don't have a little waterfall flowy part in the back. It's just in the front. So what you do is you can, oh, it is reversed. Interesting. I never draw the front view on the back. I don't know why I did that in this case. This is going to go across like that. Okay, and then on the inside we can put our little detail. Now I know just from looking at this fabric, and maybe you guys do too, that this is a knit. This is a knit fabric. And at the hem, if you look closely, it looks like there's a double row cover stitch, which is really interesting because that stitch reads very casual to me. And it makes this dress feel a lot more kind of wearable for a less formal event. I probably wouldn't wear this dress to like a really fancy event because of the fabric choice and because of the stitch detail at the bottom, personally. All right, go ahead and do your flats for this dress and compare yours to mine once you're finished. Make any corrections, and then go ahead. I think we'll go ahead and ink this tonight, guys. I'll zoom in too so you can see how I drew the little hook and eye. If you wanted to do a call out for that, you can. It's really tiny, so I just did something that kind of suggests a hook and eye. Am I forgetting anything here? I don't think so. Just remember when you ink, you're going to do 05 for the outline, you're going to do 02 for the other lines, and you're going to do these light little drapey lines with your 005. Okay. The last part of the homework I'm going to do in a separate, or sorry, the last part of the assignment I'm going to do in a separate video.